Women who live in states where abortion is now illegal now face the added risk that their digital footprints could be handed over to law enforcement if they seek out the procedure. For that reason, our next guest says tech companies need to reevaluate their data collection policies. Let's bring in Alexandra Reeve, President and CEO of the Center for Democracy and Technology. Welcome, Alexandra.
Thanks for having me.
So I want to start by just establishing what type of digital data we're talking about here. We're talking about payment transactions for, let's say, abortion services, pills, mobile device location data, mobile app location data. We're thinking about maps and ride-hailing services, also online search records, emails, and texts. So why might these types of data be problematic? Why are these current policies in place at tech companies maybe not suited to protect women?
Well, all of the information you just listed can be enormously revealing of the choices that a person is making, the places that they are going, including reproductive health clinics, abortion providers, or even if a woman or person seeking reproductive care is doing a search online to find out about their options. Tech companies have historically gathered this information for their own business purposes, sometimes to improve the delivery of services, very often to support the delivery of ads. But now is a wake-up call for businesses to realize that this could be getting them into law enforcement investigations in a very controversial area of the law that they don't want to be involved in.
Now, this past week, Google announced that it would delete the account holder's location data for certain types of visits that could be sensitive. That includes abortion clinics, counseling centers, fertility centers, and other medical locations. That data will be deleted soon after those visits, the company says. So is that far enough? Is Google going far enough? What about search? What about email? Some of those other things we just talked about.
It's a great question. So this is the type of action we want companies to be taking. It is good that they are having these moments and thinking about what they can do. But you're right that that effort alone isn't going to cut it. And the reason is the effort is going to delete location history data if a person goes to a particular sensitive site. But number one, is Google going to have an extensive list that covers every type of site that actually could be used in a prosecution? Number two, we really don't want to rely on that as a mechanism. Far better if these companies aren't collecting and storing that location data at all. Of course, as you mentioned, there are also far more ways in which a person's location data is tracked than just through the services that Google is talking about. So you can think even within Google's own control, you can think about subsidiaries like Fitbit, for example, but also you have to think about your cell phone provider and how that tracks your location, or any of the very many apps on your phone that might be creating and storing that data.
Now, these states where abortion is now illegal or soon to be illegal, these laws, they mostly target providers, not necessarily the patient or the woman who is seeking out an abortion. So what does that say for this technology and how it might impact caregivers that are providing abortion services?
Well, companies need to think about that information as well, because when you try to think through how prosecutors are going to build the evidence of a crime, they will do it by looking not only at the provider information, but likely at the information of providers or of patients or people attending that site as well. And we're not just making this up. There is a history of past prosecutions in states going against patients as well. People who've been charged with feticide, for example, where evidence has been collected from their internet browsing history or the texts of their emails and other personal correspondence. So this is why the companies need to be focusing on that issue. In addition, I will add, when you look at the text of some of these laws, they focus not only on law enforcement being able to prosecute a crime, but also in some cases, like the statute in Texas, empowering private citizens to act as bounty hunters to go after people who either obtained or aided and abetted an abortion procedure. That is particularly dangerous because that is going to incentivize an army of people to be tracking down private information so that they can try and find grounds for a lawsuit and get a $10,000 reward from the state if they're successful. So companies now have to worry not only about law enforcement coming to them with a warrant, where they would have to decide whether to hand over their users' private information, but also the incentives of all of those private individuals that are now going to be trying to collect and accumulate that data as well.
A lot of new concerns for tech companies across the board. Alexandra Reeve, President and CEO of the Center for Democracy and Technology, thanks so much for joining us.